where we left off at 9.3.6, the performance improvement order.
And so there's some language in this report that I think is unfortunate, and it just implies a range of things without giving any evidence, and asserts various things against councillors, which I think could be casting us into disrepute. It even could be considered bullying by implication. So I just wonder if this is compliant with our obligations under the Code of Conduct. And
but we're very conscious in preparing these reports that we are not identifying any individual councillors. So I'm comfortable that we are doing what we need to do, striking that appropriate balance between transparency and confidentiality in doing this. So I don't have any concerns.
No, I'd like to support Councillor Rose on this. Here it's got that there's been 5 statements of offensive, abusive, arrogant, threatening, or disrespectful items. Well, I was in the council meeting. Surely we can have a strong and fruitful debate, and without being and it's just because we don't agree with each other, it doesn't mean we're disrespectful. And I think what I've seen of these last few meetings, I haven't seen any disrespectful, but I've seen people put their position forward in a manner which I would say is the right way to do it. And this improvement order we should be holding to account. We've been elected by the community to manage this thing, to manage the council and the services out there. And of course we're going to have some robust discussions to get to the point where we think it's going to be the right direction. And why don't we go and say that up at the Parliament House when they're debating up there? Be a bit more respectful and not. So I reckon this is wrong. I fully support Councillor Rose in his concerns about this report.
Yes.
So the question really, there's a few concerning things in here, but there was a question that says that there are concerning behaviours that could be involve, I think, psychological
treatment.
Yeah, so that alarmed me, that story of requiring psychological treatment.
What's your question, Councillor Rose?
The question is, how many staff are currently under psychological treatment or issues of psychological treatment as a result of what we're seeing in this report?
So yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not prepared to answer that question in a public forum.
I'm not asking who they are. I'm just asking, are the staff members that are under psychological treatment because of the council meetings that have been?
I've responded to the question.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Do I have any more questions before I go back to debate?
And some councillors in the time period of this report were still not behaving as was expected against the performance improvement order. It's improved heaps, but we're still not perfect. We'll never be perfect. But this is not about the council meeting only. It's about the whole realm of our interaction with council.
Point of order, Councillor.
Yeah, well, I think this is more or less about the council, and it might have other, but we work under a council code of conduct.
What's your point of order, Councillor Stewart?
That I think the council is putting a wrong perspective on this report.
This report does, just to clarify, Councillor Stewart, this report's not just on this council. No, but that's what she's saying.
Code of conduct here too.
And we've also got a PIO that overrules that on top too, and that is also shown. Can I just point out too, you do have more training next week, Councillor Stewart, and I advise you to come to that training. And you can
I'll attend it if I think I need to.
And I can.
A wise person told me some years ago that when you're feeling upset about something, you can send an email, send it to yourself. I think Mr. Rawlings may have been better to send this report to himself and reflect on it, because I believe that just there's some language that's unfortunate. There's subjective commentary and there's adverse character assessments. Now, I've written down a few phrases here: very concerning behaviours, ongoing and targeted attacks, high risk of psychological harm, without identifying specific conduct, sources or according councillors an opportunity to respond. So basically this report is judge and jury. And I think that Mr. Dunche quite rightly said, we need an independent assessment. But then the independent assessment has been backed up with, I think, an assessment by a council officer who is definitely not independent. So I believe that it actually does breach our code of meeting practice, and it requires that public business be conducted in a respectful and impartial manner. But the report appears to single out councillors without evidence of naming him, or in a way that may be a breach of actually section 10.9 and 10.10 of the code, which reports that unfairly or prejudicially criticise individual councillors. Now, of course, there's also an absence of independence because the officer writing the report isn't independent.
Just point of order, Councillor Rose. Are you saying wrongdoing on a council staff member?
No.
Second time.
No,
Well,
I'm saying
that's what I'm hearing.
wrongdoing. I'm talking about.
You're saying that the staff member's wrongdoing of the report.
No, not at all. I'm criticising the report, and I've got some. I'm just putting out my criticisms, and one is that
You're
it
saying
seems
it's
to
wrong.
breach the code of meeting practice, and there's an absence of independence. So that's not an unreasonable thing to make. That's not critical of the particular officer, but I'm critical of some of the findings because the issues here are that a range of things have been, a major statements have been made, very concerning behaviours, ongoing and targeted attacks, and high risk of psychological harm. But Mr. Mayor, I did actually check with a range of people who watched the last couple of meetings, and there was no one, and they're all reasonable people, there's no one that evidenced any indication of a problem here at all. So I believe that this report doesn't represent the issues clearly and fairly in terms of the story of what we're up for in terms of the particular PIO. I think, as Councillor Stewart has said, anyone sitting in the last few meetings would see that there has been nothing of great note that has caused any problems, and everyone that I've spoken to says that the meetings have been fair and reasonable. But there's a sort of a hint here that the sky's falling in, when in fact I don't think the sky is falling in. So I understand that that was the officer's opinion, but I don't believe that it's independent and fair. So
I do take umbrage at Councillor Rose's comments towards staff, accusing them of being angry and needing to read their emails and not being independent is not appropriate. And I think there's a perspective issue here.
Mr. Mayor, but
Yes.
I don't think the councillor made in his comments made any movement towards that.
I noted
what
them
you
down. I
just
wrote them
He
down.
did comment on them, Councillor Stewart.
And I'm making the point that there is a difference in perspective amongst the community because the people I speak to, my cohorts, have watched these couple of meetings, have a completely different view of your take, councillor. They still think there's a long way to go. They still see incidents of poor behaviour, lack of politeness, being over the top. There's no reason why we can't have civil discourse without raised voices and pointed asinine comments. And I just don't think we've got as far as we need to do.
What is the definition and threshold for a disrespectful interaction?
See ya.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as you said earlier, that's probably a very good question to put to the trainer next Wednesday, who prepares the data behind the covering report that's authored by staff.
And I can see that there's been a increase in the number of disrespectful interactions between report 2 and report 3. Were they in the council chamber or were they outside of the council chamber?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that data in front of me here. We could check the records, and again, you could raise that with the trainer next week.
So the motion is to note the report, but there's no detail in the report. What report are we noting? Is it this paper from, I guess, yourself, CEO, as you just clarified? But what report are we noting? Because there is no attachment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the report that you are noting is the one that's on the business paper, which is item 9.3.6 with the recommendation as you've quoted.
It doesn't have any of the detail I just asked for.
Well, there is a report in there that presents you with information and data. That's what we're asking you to note.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do I have someone speaking against? Councillor Elliot.
This might be a question more than any. I have no problem noting the report, but I agree with Councillor Rose and Stewart very much so. The tone and some of the comments in there, I would say they're very subjective. So it's the way you look at it. So while we can vote to note it, surely the suggestion that the report can be put aside and looked at until the lady speaks to us, the training person next Wednesday. Wouldn't that be an appropriate action?
With that, I put the motion. All those in favour of the recommendation. Councillor Summers, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Elliot, Councillor Rooney, Councillor Davis, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Hannah. All those against. Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Against. Councillor Rooney. Councillor Rose.
And
And Councillor Williamson. Carried. Moving on